What's up, everybody? It's Kurt Deimer, and you're listening to Thunder Underground.
Welcome to episode 406 of the Thunder Underground podcast. Trent here as always, and this week's a great one because Kurt Deimer is here on the podcast for the first time. Kurt's a great new rock artist. He's been around a few years now. He's got his first full-length album coming out here in the very near future. He's already made a name for himself. He's got people like Phil X and Brian Tichy, performing with him. He's been out on the road touring with guys like Yngwie Malmsteen, Jeff Tate, Tesla. This guy's all over the place, and I think you're going to hear a lot more from him here in the near future. He's also an actor. He's got horror movies out there, horror movies coming. This guy is a kind of a renaissance man, right? Doing all this stuff later in his career, later in his life, really diving in, doing all the stuff that a lot of people just dream about doing. And this guy's actually doing it. So we're going to talk to Kurt about all that. But before we do, I need to let you know who sponsors this podcast. And that would be DEB Concerts. DEB Concerts is a promoter based right here in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. They brought tons of great acts to the Tulsa area, downtown, at the club level, at the arena level. They even do it at Rocklahoma as well. They book the Roadhouse stage every year at Rocklahoma. And they've got some exciting stuff coming up here in November. Here in just a few weeks, we've got Lynch Mob making their return to Tulsa. They're playing the Venue Shrine on November 15th. Paralandria and Crimson Love are opening that show. Lynch Mob is a fantastic band. I can't stress enough how great they are live. And this is being billed as their final tour. So be sure and get out there and check them out. Also, later in November on the 30th, the Cancer Sucks benefit that happens every year is at the Cain's Ballroom, and this year will feature Stephen Pearcy of Rat and Quiet Riot. DEB Concerts is, of course, a sponsor of this, so get out there, support a great cause, and see some great rock and roll as well. Hit up DEB Concerts on all their socials. Facebook and Instagram are both DEB Concerts, debconcerts.com to be kept up to date. And of course, I keep you up to date right here on Thunder Underground as well. We've also got Sunset Tattoo, a tattoo shop located in Midtown Tulsa. Their tattoos are done, get them proper. They've got well more than 25 years of experience. Jake Thompson has been doing this a very long time, and he's very good at it. I've had tattoos done by him more than once, and I'm going to have tattoos done in the future. Sunset Tattoo is Native American owned. They have a female artist on staff full-time. They accept walk-ins. If you call, message, or email ahead of time, you can set up a time to go in there and talk about what work you're looking to have done. They're great at helping bring your ideas to life, or if you've already got something ready to go, they're great at that as well. If you hit up their socials, Sunset Tattoo Tulsa on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, you'll see photos of all this great work from throughout the years. So hit up Sunset Tattoo Tulsa and tell them you heard about them right here on Thunder Underground. All right, so let's just jump into this Kurt Deimer. We are now about a week before Halloween, and I'm sure this weekend is the final weekend before Halloween. A lot of you people might be doing Halloween parties. I know a good friend of mine, Seth, always has a Halloween party the Saturday before Halloween. I'm going to miss it because I'm out of town, currently working a festival in Florida. But I bring that up because that kind of plays into with this episode, right? Kurt Deimer has several movies in the works or out that are horror-based. So if you hit up his IMDb page, you can check out all that work if you're interested in that. He's kind of going the Rob Zombie route. He's not directing movies, but he's acting in them. He's involved in them. And of course, he's got the music aspect as well. It's playing into these as well. That's something we talk about here in the interview coming up. Kurt's got a lot of music out right now. He's got several singles and an EP. He's got a full-length album coming here in the future. We're going to talk about that as well. Talk about all this stuff. So, rather than me talk about it, let me let you hear Kurt talk about it. So let's jump into this right now. Here is Kurt Deimer.
dance, and every time we open up with it, sometimes live when I can't show my movie montage for the opening, and we come out to it, and it just shreds. It gets the crowd going. I mean, for an opening band, I got at the crowd on their feet within the second song, even if they've never heard us before. And did well on Spotify and what little it's been promoted right now. But I've got some new things coming up, new stuff with a label I'm looking at that loves what Kurt Deimer's doing. So I think you're going to see it reintroduced in a bigger way. Plus, it's featured on our double debut vinyl album, CD, and cassettes that we have coming out when that comes out. So
Okay.
there'll be more about dance, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Instead
gonna
of this,
ask you about what's the status on the album? Do you have a release date or
the album's done, and what I told the team while we're kind of looking at all this and how I want to release it. There's been some issues with the past people that were slapping it up on the internet, and I want a big marketing plan behind it. If whoever I do this with in the future, which I have a pretty good idea, and I just want marketing behind it. I want it to go all over the world. I want it to be pushed. And I don't want to do anything before this election's over. So we've got a little bit of time until the world kind of settles down a little bit. And then we'll probably focus on around the holiday season and after.
yeah, it's a great way to look at it. A lot of people probably don't take into account, kind of
Yeah,
avoiding what everybody's kind of
everybody's a little,
focused on for a few months.
yeah, everybody's a little stressed right now. They're not buying a house. I got a house I can't sell. Nobody's looking at it. Everybody's a little uptight. So we'll just wait till this is over and we see where the chips fall. So.
Yeah. Well, you've got music out there that, we've heard, but dance is what you've got out that will be on this new album. So is that a good indicator of what to expect on the album, or how would you describe the progression from like your first EP and your other singles?
There'll be like, for instance, let's just say the only time will tell was on the first EP, but now I've totally recorded it differently and I'm
Okay.
singing the verses. It's got a whole new vibe. Um, uh, Dance will come out again as well. We've added probably on that album, there's maybe 5 or 6 you already know that have come out on the EP or as singles, and then all the rest is all new music, a few new covers, surprise collab, another collab I did with Jeff Tate. Um, I think it's going to blow people away. It's a gatefold double 18 song debut album. So,
Wow.
and then I'm going to be heading to the studio in December to get the second album done so that can come out, and then we can just keep going because I've got a bunch of music written, and it's, just getting back into this 4 years ago on the music side, the acting side. I never thought I'd be an actor, but now I am 6 years ago. But it's just been a lot of learning who I am, how to use my voice, training my voice, how to be on stage. And now, after it's like I went to high school now for 4 years, I'm ready to graduate and ready to go on and get that master's degree all over the world, the bachelor, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just been very fortunate I could do this at this point in my life, and I can share my message with the world. And every show, people come up to me and say, your lyrics, I'm just making a difference in my life. You touched me on this. I appreciate how you love our veterans and our first responders and how you preach kindness and caring about each other. So that's what Kurt Deimer's all about. So
That's awesome. 18 songs is pretty ambitious for the first full length debut, So like, is that something you just thought, I just want to put everything that I've got right? Well, not everything. You said you've got another album coming after that, but
that's about half of what I already have
okay.
written. But
Okay.
it's just been long enough,
Yeah.
and if you want to separate yourself from everybody else, do something that is not the norm. And I loved when I grew up and I got the Boston Gatefold album or any of those, and I could open it up and the art was awesome. And there were the lyric, I got all the lyrics in there, and let's just do something different that maybe this new generation and one before haven't seen a lot of, and make it unique. So we're going to do like 500 vinyls at a time. I'm going to number each one of them. They're going to be a collector's item. The vinyl color will have its own look on the first 500. The next 500, it'll be totally different vinyl colors, so you can collect them all. And that's what vinyl's all about now. It's art.
Yeah, absolutely. So who's working on this with you? Like who's producing or who produced the music?
My producer is Chris Lord Alge. That's
Okay.
that's my He's the one who discovered me back in 2020 when I brought my demo out to LA, and him and I have become great friends. And we've been working on this thing, haphazardly for 4 years, and now we got to bring it all together. And it's phenomenal. He mixed it, he produced it. Brian Wheat from Tesla helped produce a couple of the songs. And of course, I worked on everything, but we did everything pretty much out of Mix LA for the majority of it. And then Phil X did all the guitars and bass on everything, and Brian Tishy all the drums,
Oh wow.
except for Hero on the album. We have Dax Nielsen, Rick Nielsen's son, guest drummed on that one. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if Phil X was involved with this new music as well, because I know he did your earlier stuff.
yeah, everything on there was either written by me and Ben Trexel, who's my original writer, that I did the demo to get to LA, or me and Phil X, and then Chris Lord Alge's on a bunch of it with us as the producer, and he does keys and stuff. And but those are the main writers and the influences you'll hear on this. Phil and I wrote quite a bit together over a couple year period. So
I mean, it's got to feel good as someone, putting out, music right now, like you said early in the, even though you've been doing this for a while, but this part of your career, it's like to have got someone like Brian Tishy, like in my opinion, like an all-time great that doesn't
right.
really get the respect he deserves, at least in that sense. So like, what's that feel like to be able to work with all these different musicians, like you mentioned Tesla and Chris Lord Alge and Phil X and Brian Tishy and et cetera, et
It,
cetera.
it's amazing considering when I started working on this. I did a lot of talking in my songs because I hadn't figured out how to utilize my unique voice and hadn't trained it. I quit singing in a band when I was 20, and then got back into this after I'd raised three boys and started three oil companies. Now they run themselves, and I happened to get into this movie Trading Paint by chance with my oil brand to do a cameo. Then I'm getting offered a speaking line. Then I'm doing a scene with John Travolta. Then I get in Halloween 2018, and then I'm killed by Michael Myers in the John Carpenter movie. And then I'm working in Alabama on some other films. And I meet Ben, and Ben's got three songs that sound good. We're just having fun one night at the studio down there. And I said, I love the music, but your voice just sounds like you should sing in a wedding band. So let me show you what I can do. And then I just ripped away at it, got back into it, just kept getting better and better. Took the demo out. Chris loved what he heard. And Chris said, Ben wanted me to do Have a Cigar. And he had that version kind of, and Chris goes, let me show you what we can do with this to introduce you to the world. And that's how it all started. And then with Chris came Phil X, who was doing studio stuff for him, and Brian. So that's how I met them. And then Phil and I did that video, Have a Cigar, that's on YouTube. And then we just became friends, and he, graciously agreed to help me out on my first tour ever. We're playing was with Jeff Tate, from Queensryche. So it's just, I don't know, man. I don't know what to think. It just kind of all happened that way. But I do know I work hard, and I'm a very kind person, and I'm very giving. And Chris saw that in me, and he opened up his world. And we're continuing to open up the world together as friends, and on my project and what he knows I can do for the world. So, or he wouldn't be wasting his time. He's working on shit for Green Day, all these other people, he's like, but he believes, and that's all I want around me are the believers, because I'm different, I'm unique, and you come see us play live, I'll blow you away, I promise. And it's only going to get better when I can headline. So
Yeah, that's awesome that the stars have kind of aligned on all that for you. And
it's
you,
crazy, man,
yeah,
but everything happens for a reason. And if you
yeah,
if you have a dream, and any of your fans out there, and a goal that you want to accomplish, don't wait for other people to help you accomplish it. Find out who's with you and who's not, and go get it. And don't take no for an answer. And if you get told no, get back up and go again and again and again. So
Well, you mentioned have a cigar, and that's something I wanted to ask you about. I mean, it's one thing to, cover an artist, but then when you cover someone that everybody holds in like the highest esteem, do you like, is it a little more nerve-wracking to release something like that? Thinking, you
I
know,
know I
Pink
never
Floyd
looked
fans
at
are so diehard.
I never looked at it that way because Pink Floyd did it their way,
Yeah.
and their art is beautiful the way they did it. And I would never want to do a cover where I just take that original cover and just try to sing it, without changing it up. And we even took a verse out of it. If anybody notices, there's a verse that we took out. Chris arranged it, and he goes, "You're going to use that deep voice, and we're going to turn this into a rocker." And we've played that song every live show we've ever played, and the crowd goes nuts every time that we play it because it's so unique and different. I'm not insulting Pink Floyd. I'm just giving my interpretation of
Yeah.
a Pink Floyd song and giving them a different way to hear it.
Well, you talked about, touring with Jeff Tate, you've toured with Tesla, you're doing that coming up again. As a front man, have you picked up anything from like Jeff Tate or Jeff Keith, like seeing them out, how they, act out on stage or on tour in general or anything like that?
Yeah, they're all Jeff. Jeff is. It's like going to see. To me, some of the greatest opera singers you've ever seen. He's very, and I think he even plays the sax with one of the songs on tour. And his voice is just impeccable. It's incredible. It's totally different than mine, but that's why our voices blend together so well on Burn Together, which is coming out on the album again. And then when you hear the cover that we did, it's going to blow you away. But and then Jeff Tate, he's kind of like Steven Tylerish. Just he's got his. I mean, we have so much fun on tour. He's just crazy, nutty guy, just a great guy, and he's got his own style of vocal that nobody can do. So they taught me to live in my lane. I don't know if they taught me how to be on stage, other than I let that morph because I move around the whole time. I always hold my mic and I'm all over, and I'm all about the fans and my energy level. I go from this mellow, chill dude like this into this fucking beast on stage, until we're done and with our set. But what I learned from them is to be yourself, and hear your voice and then make it the best it can be the way it is. And that's what I learned from both of them.
When it comes to someone like, you've toured with Yngwie Malmsteen before and you're doing it again this fall. Like with your style of rock and his style of rock being, pretty distinctly different. Like, how do you feel you guys complement each other when you play with someone like that live? Or like when you played with Mushroomhead before in the past, where it's like a totally different
Yeah, it was
style than
great.
what, yeah.
Well, I'm not if I played with Drowning Pool. I'm not.
Oh, that's right.
You got to go challenge yourself and introduce yourself to new audience, because my rock is not like I'm not pigeonholed into one thing, because I think my rock is my own unique brand of rock. So we went out with Yngwie, what it was a year or two ago, and now we get to go back to a lot of the same cities now that we're bigger that we went. So it'll be great, and we're direct supporters. So it's like Yngwie, us, then Yngwie, and I think it gives the fan a great rock show, because we'll have more of our fans there as well. We'll get more of his fans as well, and you'll be able to see us rock out and do our style of rock show. And then Yngwie comes. It's not like a whole night of people that are just like Yngwie. It's just a rock fest, with a couple different styles and whoever the other openers are going to be. But so it's awesome. It's not nerve wracking. It's Yngwie wouldn't have invited me back out for his 40th if he didn't think it was a good bill.
Right.
And I think the fans will see it that way as well, because we're going back to all the cities where people keep begging us to come back. So
That's awesome. Like who's in your live? I mean, you mentioned who's on the album with you. Who's in the live band?
my live band has been a progression because I want the same people at all times. So we're tight, and and the fans deserve that. I loved it when I was growing up, and I go to the arenas and see all the big bands, and it was always the same dudes, different era. And even though I go under my name, people, oh, you can just get who I go, no, that's not how you build a great rock band.
Yeah.
So Brendan Hingle's my music director. He plays guitar now, but he can play bass and drums. He started out as my merch guy and filled in on the Jeff Tate tour when our bass player went, and he's been in the band ever since.
Oh well.
Um, Marco Para is our bass player now, and he's out. He can play guitar as well. He's out in Nashville, and he's got this phenomenal high voice that blends perfect, so we can harmonize all my stuff. Because Phil used to do that with me when he was in the band. And then we got Isaiah Perez on the drums out of Nashville, who's a beast. And then my lead guitarist is just blows everybody away everywhere we play. He does the Have a Cigar solo now and all that. Sammy Bowler out of Detroit. So, and that's my band, and that's who you will see, unless somebody decides, they want to do something more than go play arenas with Kurt Deimer in the next 5 years. So
Right.
it's up to them. Because
Right
that's my
on.
goal. That's my goal.
Well, going back, a couple years, you released the song "My Dad." I don't know if you performed that live, but I was
Not
just
yet.
curious. Nah,
We
okay. I was
don't.
just curious if that's something that if you do, if it was, hard for you, or if it's something that gets a little easier with time, but if it's not something you're performing live.
No, I can. We do want to perform it live, but that's going to be a song, one of those songs you introduce into your set when you headline.
Right. Good
Kind of in
point.
the middle of the show, honor everybody's lost loved ones. It doesn't just have to be a dad. And no, it won't bother me because I miss my dad immensely, and I wish I could talk to him, but I talk to him before I go on stage every night. My sister passed before he did, from cancer at 45, had ovarian cancer. So I talked to him and Leanne every night before, and she was the singer. Like, she could have been on The Voice and all that shit, but it was
Oh
just
wow.
she was singing back in the 80s, 70s, and she was a thespian and all that. And I'm just burnout, brother Kurt, just trying to work and figure shit out. So now I'm doing what she loved to do, and he loved to sing a baritone in the church choir, and they're big musical people, and they got me into piano when I was 7, and kept music around me, and then it just naturally entered into my life, and I was in a band for a while in college, and even though I wasn't really going to college, I was fucking around, but it's just they're a part of it. I talk to them before every show, so it won't bother me at all to sing the song, because I've come to grips with it, and I watched them both pass away. I was with them when they passed away, 3 years apart at the same hospice. So that's a lot to deal with. So I try to just honor them every day.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioned it, just then, talking about being in a band when you're younger, and I know your bio kind of loosely mentions it, but like, so is the past few years like your first foray, like actually into the music industry, and the other ones are just kind of like,
Yeah,
local area type bands, or what were you doing earlier
yeah.
on?
I pretty much this time I didn't start out in bars or any of that. Like I said, I started really with the acting, which I never expected. And then when I met Ben, then I got back into how I could do both and be a multifaceted artist and tie the two together. And music was never taken seriously at a performance. Plus, I never thought I'd be able to get on stage in front of a bunch of people. Back when I was young, I would have had an anxiety attack. So back before 20, it was just more that local band, playing. I went to University of Cincinnati. I was playing around Cincinnati when the Afghan wigs were coming out.
Oh
And
yeah.
it was that kind of era. Then when I met my kid's mom, we got married young, and she made me quit music and all that shit, cut my hair, and then I became this other guy for like 22 years, raised my kids, and then we got divorced in 2010, and then I got to be who I was originally and go back to gradually to who Kurt Deimer really is. And now my kids get to know who their dad is and what he's all about, and they trip out, all the things I've done in my life. And their mom is great person, and she is who she is, and it was a great thing that we did for our kids. And we've got three beautiful boys. In fact, I got to fly Wednesday up to Boston because our oldest is getting married. So
Oh wow, that's awesome.
yeah, so
That
it's
this
good.
coming weekend. Yeah,
Yeah, I had to block these days off on tour because he had planned the wedding's been planned for about a year. So I'm looking forward to a little family time, and it's good when everybody can come together for your child and all get along and have a nice time. So
absolutely. Well, having been, doing both music and acting the past, 5, 6 years, do you feel one comes more naturally to you than another, or I mean, I know you said you're kind of working on both, like developing as you go, but
working on both, but the acting, I never knew I could do that, but it comes very natural to me. I'm very good at ad-libbing. I'm a chill, mellow dude, but I've got crazy thoughts, from all the things I've been through in my life, and I can morph into characters very, very easily. So I think the acting came a little quicker because I didn't have to train my voice. I didn't have to train my breathing. I didn't have to figure out how to sing as close to on pitch as I can. That's a lot harder to present your music. You've really got to work at that. So the acting was probably easier from a natural standpoint, but the music's it's become like a second thought now, and I just continue to work hard and stay in shape and be ready to go and give it my all for the people that are buying tickets. And once we can headline, I want to bring the theatrical aspect of my side and all the different characters I can do or crazy things I can do to the stage and mix both together. So,
okay. So you eventually turn it into a theatrical style performance?
oh, it'll be like, I love the way David Bowie performed and
Yeah,
Alice Cooper and even Rob Zombie. I mean, he's got some crazy shit going on stage,
yeah.
Ice Nine Kills, I want to do all that. I mean, I got two horror movies coming out that I star in. So let's incorporate all that stuff, and I'll wear whatever. I don't care. Whatever makes everybody happy and love the rock show, and I'll do crazy shit. It's entertainment, and I love doing it for people.
What's
So
the info on the movies you got coming out? Like, is that like this year or 2025?
yeah, yeah. Again, we're gonna wait till after the election, but they're both in the can. Post production is done on Scared to Death. Is the movie I have coming out that I star in with Lynn Shay and Bill Moseley, and I play a horror icon called the Grog, which is actually me, the way I look on stage. And I was in all these old movies. We've got all these posters. It's a trip, man. I do interviews with Larry King and all these people. It's fucked up. So I'm the Grog in that. So the Grog's coming, and then in Hellbilly Hollow, it's me and Kevin Wayne, who's the director and my co-villain, if you will. My brother Tickles. I'm Bull. I'm this crazy burnt face, like burnt eyed brother, got the big scar, and we're just nutbags, and we have these crazy kills, and it's the first episode of the whole franchise, and we've already written Hellbilly Hollow 2, where we go back to where we came from. It's going to be a horror franchise, and I think Scared to Death will end up because things happen where I think Scared to Death could be a franchise as well, and having it Scared to Death too and stuff, but I don't want to give away the plot or anything. So two great movies, two different styles. Scared to Death's more of a comedy ensemble horror cast thing, and then with me, Bill, Lynn, and other great actors, and then Hellbilly Hollow 2 focuses a lot on myself and my brother Tickles, and it's just crazy, psychotic, fucked up comedy. Takes you on a fun little ride. So
Yeah.
they're both
Is
cool.
is that kind of, I'd read something that you had said, I think you said Devil's Rejects was your favorite horror movie. I mean, is that kind of
Yeah,
like the
that was
style
my
that you
favorite
like
horror
lean towards?
movie.
Yeah.
And Bill Moseley, before I
Right.
met him, and now we've become good friends. I never thought I'd be act alongside him and star alongside him in a movie. and he plays a totally different character in our movie. I mean, he went out in a totally different direction, which was so cool to see. But yeah, I love Devil's Rejects, and the craziness of him and the Devil's Rejects gave me a lot of inspiration for the craziness I have in Hellbilly Hollow. So
Very
it's
cool.
just pretty cool. I love Bill. He's an amazing guy. And how that worked out too, I don't know. Never thought I'd be in a movie with Lynn Shay either.
Right.
So it's crazy, man.
Well,
Now we
being
go to
relatively new to,
now
I
we all
mean,
go to dinner together and shit and
yeah,
hang out. I've been to Lynn's house to have some wine with her and just talk about movies and her career. It's just amazing how all this stuff unfolds. So
yeah. Well, being relatively new to, acting, like besides like the two people you just mentioned, is there anybody else that like you've kind of looked for to inspiration, or are you just kind of doing your own thing in the moment?
well, I love Bill and Lynn, of course,
Yeah.
and now I've got to be in a movie with them. I love Tom Hardy. I think he's
Yeah.
amazing. His character in Peaky Blinders that blew me away. Um, who else? Love Johnny Depp and what all he's about, the way he does The Rock and the way he did. I hope to meet him someday. He's really good friends with my photographer, Ross Halford. So hopefully that'll happen, or we can maybe even go out with Hollywood Vampires. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Um, just to introduce ourselves, that would be a great fan base. And Tom Hardy, Johnny Depp. I'd also, there was one that just was in my head that I wanted to tell. Oh, that's Cillian Murphy from Peaky Blinders. Love his style and his piercing eyes, and so I always watch closely when I have a show like that I really like, and I watch the intricacies of what those guys do, and those are probably three of the biggest ones. So
Well, like Scared to Death and Hellbilly Hollow 2, is there any Kurt Deimer music integrated in these films or
yeah, Hellbilly Hollow has about what don't hold me to the number, but probably at least seven Kurt Deimer songs
okay.
and a couple from my buddy in a band. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Y Store, Chris Schaefer from the Y Store. So there's two
Yeah.
from there. That'll be our soundtrack there. And then Scared to Death. And I wrote the song for the final scene of Hellbilly Hollow, which we play live, called Doom, which you can stream. It'll be back up once those things are corrected. And we sell that single at the shows on CD too. And then so that's a huge song. And then I wrote the Scared to Death song called Scared to Death, which will blow your mind. And then Live or Die, which is coming out on the debut album. That's in Scared to Death. And then the other song, when Lynn Shay comes out of the limo, there's a rap song playing. And that's just a fun song. My middle son Luke and I did, and it's called Turtleneck. And people that's going to debut and Scared to Death is hilarious. So yeah, a lot of my music in these first two
Yeah.
films, and I think a lot of my music's going to end up going into other TV shows and all that with the label team that would will be around me in the future.
Okay. Yeah, that was my next question was, I mean, I assume the goal is always, to get your music heard, but like outside of the stuff you're acting in, now that you've got connections in, the movie world as well, is the idea to push your music into any avenue you can when it comes to
Yeah,
shows or
push it,
movies. Yeah.
bring it all together. You want Bull and the Grog at horror conventions for the movies. We'll go to the horror conventions. I'll meet fans. I always meet with the fans after every show at my merch booth. No questions asked. There's always a line. I sign. I do pictures. I'm just a man of the people. And when I can do if I can tie the horror convention and the movies, and then have the band play a show in that town as well on the same weekend, we
Yeah.
could do a whole tour around these conventions as well, and even play at them. So that's all coming. It's a lot of moving parts that have to be packaged correctly together. So it's a lot
Yeah.
of work.
Very cool. Well, man, I'm really looking forward to, your new album, everything coming out here in the future. And I appreciate you taking the time with me today.
Oh yeah, always, man. Anytime, I'd be happy to be on the show. And without folks like yourself sharing me with your fans, then I'm not building or growing my fan base. So I'm always available. Sorry we had to move it, but I ended up having to fly on that other day, and
Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah.
but today worked out perfect. So everything happens for a reason. just tell all your fans to check out Kurt Deimer, man, everywhere. KURTDEIMER. All my socials are under that. My website's kurtdeimer.com. Google my name. You'll find it all. Go to my IMDb page. And hopefully you'll decide you want to be a new fan too, and I'll meet you someday. So thank you to everybody out there.
There you go, Kurt Deimer. A huge thank you to Shauna O'Donnell of O'Donnell Media Group. And of course, a massive thank you to Kurt Deimer for taking some time out there to talk to me about everything he's got going on. And not only the world of rock and roll, but the world of movies as well. Very interesting guy to talk to. Really looking forward to what he's got coming in the future and where his career takes him. Because it looks like, he's really diving in head first and just kind of doing everything. And I really appreciate that. So really looking forward to seeing what we get from Kurt Deimer in the future. Looking forward to this new album. Hit him up, Kurt Deimer, like you said, kurtdeimer.com. Hit up his IMDb page to check out his movie credits. Check out some of those movies. And of course, get on Spotify, YouTube, all the socials. Follow him, listen to him. Great stuff here from Kurt. If this is your first time listening, I really appreciate it. You've got 405 previous episodes that you could check out. That would take you quite a while, but hey, you got to start somewhere. And speaking of guys that, Kurt mentioned, we talked about Brian Tichy. He's been on this podcast more than once. We actually had an episode after Neil Peart died. Brian Tichy came on. We did a tribute to Neil of Rush. Brian Tichy is one of the few guys that could handle his own, playing some Rush songs. Also, Jeff Tate, who Kurt has toured with. Jeff Tate has been on this podcast. That was a very fun one to do. And of course, Kurt has toured with Tesla as well. Frank Cannon from Tesla has been on this podcast 4 times. Brian Weed of Tesla has been on here as well. I've also had on guys like Dee Snider, Gene Simmons, Bruce Kulick, formerly of Kiss, Glenn Hughes, RJ Hell of Hellstorm, John Cooper of Skillet. The list, my friends, is great and long. It spans everything from bands like Megadeth, Testament, The Black Dahlia Murder, to bands like Warrant, Firehouse, Trickster, Lillian Axe, Slaughter, Motley Crue. Members of, Alice Cooper and Billy Idol's band, Leonard Skinner, Ricky Medlock was on here earlier this year, Whitesnake. Guys like Adrian Vandenberg has been on here. Well, Brian Tichy again, when you look at that. Dean Castronova from Journey. The list is great and long, friends, so you just dive in there, check it out at thethunderunderground.com. You can listen to everything there. You can also listen pretty much anywhere podcasts are heard, so wherever you're listening to this right now, be sure to like, follow, subscribe so you don't miss those future episodes. You can follow on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, on all those things. Most recent TikTok video at the moment of recording this was a live video from Crowbot in Tulsa a few weeks ago. There's probably something up else by now, but at the time of recording, check that out. Crowbot, fantastic newer band. If you're not familiar with them, you need to get familiar. Brandon Yeagley was on the podcast just last week, so check that one out as well. All right. Once again, thank you guys for listening, and a huge thank you to O'Donnell Media Group, Kurt Deimer, Sunset Tattoo, and DEB Concerts. And until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.